The Wild West you were taught in school was clean, heroic, and carefully edited. Brave sheriffs, noble settlers, a wide-open land waiting to be tamed, but hidden in forgotten archives, locked drawers, and private collections are hundreds of photographs that told a very different story. Images so raw, so unsettling, and so politically inconvenient that they were quietly erased from history books. These were not staged portraits meant for postcards. They were moments frozen by early cameras that captured desperation, brutality, poverty, injustice, and survival in its most unfiltered form. When photography was still new and expensive, every image mattered, and that is exactly why so many of these photos were banned, buried, or simply never shown to the public. In these rare photographs, the Wild West doesn't look romantic at all. It looks tired. Faces are sun-cracked and hollow, eyes squinting not from heroism but from hunger and dust. Men lean against collapsing wooden buildings, their clothes stiff with sweat and dirt, revolvers hanging heavy at their sides, not as symbols of power, but as tools of constant fear. Women stand barefoot in muddy streets, holding children whose expressions are far too old for their small bodies. These images shattered the myth that the West was built by bold adventure alone. They revealed that it was also built by exhaustion, exploitation, and quiet suffering. Some of the most disturbing banned photographs showed public executions. Not the sanitized kind later reenacted in movies, but real hangings carried out in town squares while crowds gathered like it was entertainment. Children appear in the background of these photos, perched on barrels or sitting on rooftops, watching bodies sway in the wind. No hero rides in to stop it. No dramatic speech is made, just a rope, a wagon, and a life erased. History books avoided these images because they showed how casually death was treated, how justice was often nothing more than mob violence dressed up as law. Other photos exposed the brutal reality faced by Native American tribes after forced removals. Long lines of families photographed during winter marches, wrapped in thin blankets, their possessions reduced to what could be carried by hand. Some images show freshly dug graves beside frozen trails, unnamed and unmarked. Others reveal boarding schools where Native children were photographed before and after civilization. Their traditional clothing stripped away, hair cut short, expressions dulled. These images were banned, not because they were unclear, but because they were too clear. They proved that what was called progress came at a devastating human cost. Then there were the outlaw photos. Real criminals, not Hollywood legends. Billy the Kid wasn't smiling. Jesse James didn't look charming. Many of these men appear thin, wounded, paranoid, and constantly on edge. Some banned images showed dead outlaws laid out for the camera like trophies, eyes half open, bullet holes visible through torn shirts. Lawmen posed proudly beside corpses, boots propped on lifeless chests. These photographs destroyed the romantic idea of the noble gunslinger and replaced it with something far uglier. A cycle of violence where survival depended more on cruelty than courage. One entire category of banned Wild West photos focused on child labor. Young boys photographed deep inside mines, their faces blackened with coal dust, hands already scarred and swollen. Girls barely 10 years old working in saloons as servers, laundresses, and sometimes worse. Their eyes looked straight into the camera, not shy, not smiling, just aware. These images were quietly ignored by history because they contradicted the fantasy of opportunity and freedom. They showed that the West was not just dangerous, but merciless to the youngest and weakest. Photographs of frontier medicine were equally disturbing. Amputations performed outdoors, surgeons standing over blood-soaked tables with no gloves, no anesthesia, and no privacy. Patients bite down on leather straps, while onlookers gather behind them. Some banned images show jars of removed limbs, displayed like scientific curiosities. Others reveal makeshift hospitals filled with wounded railroad workers, gunshot victims, and women who didn't survive childbirth. These photos reminded viewers that survival often depended on luck, not skill, and that pain was a constant companion in daily life. Even everyday town life looked different through these forbidden lenses. Streets overflowing with mud, animal waste, and trash. Drunk men passed out against storefronts in the middle of the day. Gambling halls packed not with excitement, but desperation, faces tense, fingers twitching, eyes locked on cards like they held the last hope of escape. In some banned photos, you can see fights frozen mid-motion, chairs raised, bottles shattered, blood already visible. These images showed that violence wasn't rare. It was a routine. Perhaps the most quietly haunting photographs were the ones that didn't show action at all. Empty homesteads abandoned after droughts or raids. Graves with wooden markers already rotting away. Family portraits where one or more faces had been scratched out. A common practice after death or disgrace. In these still moments, the Wild West feels less like a legend and more like a long, exhausting struggle that wore people down until they disappeared without a trace. History books preferred paintings, drawings, and carefully chosen studio photos, because they could be controlled. These banned photographs could not. They showed truth without narration, without heroic framing, without permission. They exposed the cost of expansion, the cruelty of lawlessness, and the people who were never meant to be remembered, and that is exactly why they were hidden. Today, as these images slowly resurface, they force us to confront an uncomfortable reality. The Wild West was not just built by legends, it was built by forgotten faces, broken bodies, and stories that didn't fit the myth. These 300 rare photographs don't rewrite history, they restore it. And once you've seen them, it becomes impossible to believe the old stories ever told the whole truth.